Today is Tuesday, June 13. I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Philippians 4. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. It's Philippians 4, verse 10. Hot off the heels of Paul's invitation to practice what they have learned and seen, Paul immediately begins to talk of how the Philippians have indeed practiced what they have seen Paul live and teach. Unsurprisingly, their practice of generosity has brought Paul to rejoicing, a theme throughout the letter. It is not as if, therefore, Paul was scolding the Philippians before. It was not as if the only news in Philippi was bad news about fights between these two women, Euodia and Syntyche, and others that demanded correction. No, the same life lived in the mindset of Christ Jesus that Paul has traced and invited, he now brings the Philippians to recognize already within themselves too. Christ lives in them. The imagery behind the phrase, "At last you renewed your concern for me," is an image drawn from nature. It is a picture of spring, of life bursting forth from the dirt and branches after a long season of death and stillness. There was a season when the Philippians had no opportunity to show their concern. But now the seasons have changed, and their concern for Paul has visibly sprung back to life once again. Whatever else may be drawn from this passage or this verse, there at least can be a recognition that our practice of the Christian life ebbs and flows. There is a seasonality to the things that we practice. We are not perpetual motion machines that mechanically repeat the exact same patterns of life and faith from birth to death unendingly. No, we're not assembly line robots. There are seasons when we are able to give and seasons when we are unable. Seasons when we are able to serve and others in which we are not. We are organic, living things. And the familiar words of Ecclesiastes 3 come to mind. There is a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time for every activity under the heavens. This notion perhaps runs against the grain of our sensibilities, though. On the one hand, we know this to be true. Even when, like the Philippians, we remain concerned for everything, that doesn't mean that we can actually do everything all the time. We have limited time and resources. On the other hand, though, we can feel guilty about this. Aren't we supposed to be unfailingly faithful in every good spiritual discipline like Bible reading, prayer, giving, serving, etc.? Well, the trick perhaps is to recognize that faithfulness does not lock us into a strict, unchanging routine. Just as a good workout routine will employ variation to alternate the working and resting of different muscle groups at different times, so a good routine of spiritual discipline will shift around the burden to different areas of our spiritual life and capacity over time to ensure a mature, well-rounded relationship with God and our neighbors. There is a rhythm here of work and rest. Both must be observed. In her Spiritual Disciplines Handbook, Adele Alberg-Calhoun says it this way. She says, quote, "Like every other living thing, humans have seasons. Winter, summer, autumn, and spring are real places on the spiritual journey. These seasons cycle through our lives, bringing times of fruit-bearing, root deepening, drought, and deep waiting. No matter how old or young we are, seasons come and go and return to come and go again. Some disciplines can be more suited to one season than another. When choosing a spiritual discipline, pay attention to your spiritual season." End quote. God calls us into different practices in different seasons of our lives, different forms of attentiveness to our relationship with Him and our neighbors. The point is that we remain faithfully attentive to these relationships, no matter the season. That's what we're called to. So, where are you at in the seasons of life? What grace does God speak to you today in terms of inviting you to pick up or lay down different activities of faithful spiritual discipline? If you'd like to read further, let me know, and I can forward you a copy of Calhoun's 8-page guide to discerning the seasons you're in and the spiritual disciplines that might be appropriate to each. This is a good part of the work of our faith formation over the life of seasons in our lifetime. And now as you journey on, go with God's blessing. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.